Hey potatoes. Okay, after the Avengers, Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, and literally everything these guys have been through, Marvel finally asks the most dangerous question possible.
What happens when the Avengers stop agreeing with each other? Because think about it, this time there's no Loki, no Ultron, no massive alien army dropping from the sky, and no giant monsters. This time, the problem is sitting right there inside the team.
So, Tony Stark wants the Avengers under strict government control, while Steve Rogers, he wants them to stay completely independent. And right somewhere in the middle of all that mess, Bucky Barnes comes back. Then, Marvel just casually drops Black Panther and Spider-Man into the exact same movie. Like, bro, what are we even doing? This isn't just Captain America 3, this is basically Avengers family problems. Let's dive right into it.
We actually kicked things off back in 1991, and immediately, Marvel brings back the Winter Soldier. Bucky is being transported through this snowy forest, but this isn't the Bucky we've grown to know. This is Hydra's Bucky. They give him those notorious trigger words, and suddenly, the Winter Soldier is online. He attacks the convoy, takes out absolutely everyone, steals what Hydra wanted, and just disappears. Now, we don't know exactly what he's done just yet, but keep this scene in the back of your mind, because this tiny flashback, it's going to completely destroy Tony Stark later on. Cut to the present day, and our evolved team is in Lagos.
We've got Steve Rogers, Natasha, Sam Wilson, and Wanda on the ground. And Brock Rumlow. Yep, Crossbones is back, and Bro is still completely obsessed with Steve. The team is trying to stop Rumlow from stealing a biological weapon, and this fight is honestly just a massive showcase of how much they've evolved since the first Avengers. Eventually, Steve gets Rumlow alone, but Rumlow isn't just trying to physically beat him, he's trying to mess with Steve psychologically. He casually brings up Bucky, and Steve loses focus for just a split second. Rumlow triggers a massive explosion. Wanda reacts instantly, using her powers to throw the blast away from the street. But tragically, it hits a nearby building. Innocent people die. And this, right here, is exactly where the entire tone of the movie flips.
Suddenly, the whole world wants answers. Because look at it from the Avengers' perspective. They just stopped a major terrorist attack. But from literally everyone else's perspective, the Avengers just caused another disaster. And honestly, the public is getting tired of it. I mean, remember Sokovia, New York, all that insane collateral damage? Yeah, the world wants accountability now. And who's the guy bringing the hammer down? General Ross. Yep, the exact same Ross who spent the whole Incredible Hulk movie chasing Bruce Banner is now the Secretary of State. Career development? Absolutely. Ross arrives with a little something called the Sokovia Accords.
The basic idea here is simple. The Avengers cannot just decide where and when to intervene anymore. They need official authorization. Tony is immediately on board. Steve? Yeah, not so much. And this is where Civil War elevates from just a standard superhero flick, because both of these men genuinely believe they are protecting people. Tony looks at Sokovia and feels the crushing weight of his responsibility. He created Ultron to protect the world, but instead he nearly destroyed it. So Tony is basically at the point where he's saying, hey, maybe we actually need someone to stop us from making these calls ourselves. But Steve, he sees the danger from the complete opposite side. He's already watched organizations like Hydra secretly infiltrate governments. He's seen firsthand what happens when you blindly trust authority. His argument hits hard. What happens when the Avengers are desperately needed but the people in charge say no? Do they just stand around and watch? That's the core conflict right there. Tony wants accountability, Steve wants the freedom to act. And honestly, they both have incredibly valid points.
Right after this, Tony heads to MIT, and we get this incredibly vulnerable moment. For just a second, he isn't Iron Man. He's just Howard Stark's son. He talks about his parents, about losing them, and about how he never really dealt with that deep, lingering pain. It's a heavy scene, right before he goes to meet a kid, a very smart, very awkward kid from Queens.
Yep, Peter Parker. After all those years, Spider-Man is finally home in the MCU. Tony shows up at Peter's apartment, and man, Peter is trying so hard to act normal. Tony Stark is literally just sitting on his bedroom bed, and Peter is rambling like, yeah, you know, school is school. My guy, you are talking to a billionaire superhero. Tony quickly figures out he's Spider-Man, but he also immediately realizes that this is still just a kid. Sure, Peter's talented, his reflexes are absolute insanity, and he's super strong, but he has zero idea what he's actually getting himself into. Tony recruits him anyway, kicking off what will become one of the most crucial relationships in Peter's entire journey.
Meanwhile, Steve is dealing with a massive loss of his own. Peggy Carter passes away. Steve attends her funeral, and this scene is so easy to overlook because there aren't any explosions, but emotionally, it's huge. Peggy represented Steve's old life, the life he never got the chance to live, his old world.
And now, she's gone too. But there's still one single person left from that era, Bucky, and Steve is about to choose his oldest friend over pretty much everyone else.
Things escalate fast. There's a devastating bombing at the UN, and King T'Chaka of Wakanda is killed. Instantly, the world points the finger at Bucky. Steve is absolutely not buying it because he knows Bucky wouldn't choose to do this. Hydra turned his friend into a brainwashed weapon, and now the whole world wants to kill him for things he had no control over. But you know who doesn't care about Bucky's excuses? T'Challa. And wow, this man's introduction is cold. His father was murdered, and he's coming for the person responsible. The Black Panther steps into the MCU and immediately moves like he's been the star of 10 movies already. No long, drawn-out explanation, no dramatic monologue, just claws out, straight into the chase. Bucky runs, and T'Challa tracks him down, keeping pace with a super soldier like it's a light morning cardio session. Bro is ridiculously fast. Bucky eventually gets captured, but Steve flat out refuses to abandon him. He's not doing it just to be stubborn, he's doing it because he knows who Bucky really is underneath the programming. That's why he's willing to literally break the law for him.
And then there's Zemo. Now here's what's wild. This guy has absolutely zero superpowers. No fancy iron suit, no super soldier serum, no vibranium claws, literally nothing. Just a plan. And that is exactly why he is so utterly terrifying. Zemo intensely studies the Avengers. He picks apart their relationships and identifies every single weakness. He realizes a brilliant, chilling truth. He doesn't actually have to defeat the Avengers himself. He just has to make them defeat each other. So he tracks down those Winter Soldier trigger words, and boom, Bucky is brainwashed again. Complete and utter chaos breaks out. Bucky escapes, Steve goes after him, and now Tony is 100% convinced that Steve is actively protecting a dangerous terrorist, while Steve is convinced Tony has no clue what Bucky has actually been through. That gap between them just keeps getting wider.
Which brings us to one of the most hype moments in the entire MCU. The team officially splits. On Tony's side, we've got Iron Man, War Machine, Black Widow, Vision, and the newcomers, Black Panther and Peter Parker. On Steve's side, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, and Ant-Man. Honestly, Scott Lang basically just gets a random phone call saying Captain America needs help and somehow winds up fighting the Avengers. The guy doesn't even know the political situation, he just knows Cap asked and that's enough for him. But before they throw hands, we have to talk about Wanda. She's quietly going through a massive arc here. After the Lagos tragedy, she's terrified of her own power. Tony essentially keeps her locked down at the compound, and Vision tries to comfort her. This is where their relationship really starts to spark. Vision is incredibly powerful, but emotionally, Bro is still trying to figure out how humans work. Keep an eye on that dynamic because it's going to be absolutely crucial later.
All right, then we hit the airport. Oh boy, Marvel really just looked at the script and said, you know what? Let's throw literally everybody into one massive space. Team Cap arrives, Team Iron Man is waiting for them, and for a 10-second, everyone just stands there staring each other down. Steve, Bucky, Sam, Wanda, Clint, Scott against Tony, Rhodey, Natasha, Vision, T'Challa, and a totally random teenager from Queens. You can literally see Peter standing there thinking, no way, I am actually about to fight the Avengers. The kid is having the time of his absolute life, while all the adults are dealing with massive emotional trauma.
Then, Peter spots Steve's shield. He webs it, yanks it right out of his hands, lands, and just casually goes, "Hey everyone, bro." The look on Steve's face, that is the face of a man who has been Captain America for decades, and some random kid in pajamas just completely styled on him. Peter starts going toe-to-toe with Bucky and Falcon, and we immediately see just how insane Spider-Man actually is. He's agile, he's crazy strong, and his spider sense gives him a massive edge. Plus he fights so differently from everyone else there. He's not a trained soldier like Steve, he's entirely improvising on the fly, which makes him so incredibly fun to watch.
Then Scott decides it's time to turn things up a notch, and suddenly, boom, Giant Man. Literally everyone just stops in their tracks like, wait, what the hell? The tiny guy just turned into a commercial building. Peter is completely mind-blown, but surprisingly, he's the one who figures out how to take him down using a movie reference. It just proves that underneath the inexperience, Peter's tactical intelligence is seriously top tier, exactly what Tony saw in him. Now, as awesome as this whole airport battle is, when you really think about it, it's pretty heartbreaking. These aren't random enemies, these are friends. They fought side by side, saved the world together, and now they're just aggressively throwing punches at each other. Nobody wants to actually kill anyone, but emotions are running dangerously high. Ultimately, Steve and Bucky manage to escape, but the Avengers as we know them, they're completely done.
Steve and Bucky make their way to Siberia, and Tony tracks them down. For a brief, hopeful second, it actually looks like the three of them might team up again to stop the threat. Then Zemo reveals his true masterpiece. They find the other Winter Soldiers, but they're already dead. Zemo never even needed them. His actual weapon was never an army of super soldiers. It was information. He plays a grainy security tape from 1991, the snowy road, the car crash, Howard Stark, Maria Stark, and Tony is forced to stand there and watch the Winter Soldier murder his parents. Everything clicks into place. Bucky killed them. Yes, he was brainwashed and not in control, but the real gut punch, Steve already knew.
Tony looks at Steve, absolutely shattered, and just asks, "Did you know?" Steve admits that he did. And man, Tony just completely loses it. At this exact moment, all the politics, the Sokovia Accords, the Avengers, none of it matters anymore. This is purely about Tony's parents and the fact that the man he trusted most was protecting their killer.
Tony instantly attacks. Steve leaps in to protect Bucky, and we finally get the brutal fight this entire movie has been building toward. Iron Man versus Captain America. This isn't a flashy, fun superhero sparring match. This is visceral. It's deeply personal. Tony is blinded by rage, Steve is desperate to save his friend, and Bucky is doing whatever he can to survive. Tony blasts off Bucky's metal arm. Steve just keeps coming. Tony fires everything he's got, but Steve refuses to stay down. Eventually, Steve gets the upper hand. He disables Tony's suit. He could absolutely finish it right there, but he doesn't. Instead, he drops the shield, the iconic shield that represents Captain America, the shield that Howard Stark made. Tony spits out, "That shield doesn't belong to you," and Steve just walks away into the dark. It is such a heavy, painful ending. The Avengers didn't get beaten by a cosmic villain, they were destroyed because they lost their trust in each other.
But wait, we are not quite done with T'Challa. Think back to where he started. His father was murdered, and he wanted Bucky dead. But now he knows Bucky was innocent, and Zemo orchestrated the whole thing. T'Challa finally corners him. Zemo is fully prepared to die, but T'Challa makes a completely different choice. He chooses justice over revenge. He tells him, "The living are not done with you yet," and spares his life. That is T'Challa's true victory here. He refuses to let himself be consumed by the same hatred that tore the Avengers apart, breaking the cycle of vengeance. It perfectly sets up exactly what kind of noble king he is destined to become.
Bucky makes a tough call of his own. Knowing Hydra's programming is still locked inside his brain, he realizes he's too dangerous to walk free. So he voluntarily goes back into cryogenic sleep in Wakanda under T'Challa's protection. This is a massive shift for the MCU because now Wakanda is officially tied into the greater narrative. Meanwhile, Tony receives a package from Steve. In it, Steve doesn't try to gloss over the damage. He knows their friendship is shattered, but he essentially tells Tony, "If you ever need me, I'm here." It's a crucial olive branch, showing they aren't necessarily enemies forever. And speaking of packages, Peter Parker gets one too, his upgraded suit from Tony. Back in Queens, as he tries to hide his battle scars from Aunt May, he activates his web shooter, projecting the classic spider logo onto the ceiling. The wall crawler is officially undeniably in the MCU.
So let's take a step back and look at what Civil War actually accomplished, because this movie rewired the MCU forever. We got the flawless introduction of Black Panther, Spider-Man officially swung into the universe with Tony as his new mentor, Bucky found a new sanctuary in Wakanda, Wanda and Vision's tragic romance was sparked, Zemo proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that you do not need godlike powers to completely dismantle Earth's mightiest heroes. But the biggest takeaway? The Avengers are completely, utterly fractured. Tony and Steve aren't speaking. Cap's team is essentially operating as underground fugitives. Everyone is scattered across the globe. And guess who is waiting in the wings? Thanos. That is the truly terrifying part. The Avengers just broke themselves apart right before the absolute biggest threat they've ever faced is about to knock on their door.
So, what's the final verdict? I'm giving Captain America Civil War a massive 4.8 out of 5 potatoes. It's brilliant because both Tony and Steve are entirely justified in their beliefs, but their shared trauma gave Zemo the perfect opening to manipulate them and tear the team apart from the inside. It's character drama at its absolute peak, and it matters so much to the larger story.
And somewhere out there in the cosmos, Thanos is getting closer. So yeah, potatoes, think about it. The Avengers survived alien invasions. They survived a rogue murder bot like Ultron. They survived the Battle of New York. But they literally couldn't survive one massive argument about responsibility? The road to the Infinity War is officially wide open and extremely dangerous. But it really makes you wonder, if Zemo hadn't masterfully broken them apart right here, would Thanos have ever even stood a chance? I'll see you in the next one, potatoes.